James Dean Wasson, although I go by Jim Wasson. And I guess they used to call me Was, or still do. I'm born December 14th, 1951, Peterborough, Ontario.
John D. Grant, February 8th, 1951. I'm fabulous 68, and I was born in Toronto, Ontario. And my nickname is Senior.
It used to be Tree, or Stud.
Whose interview is this?
You forgot your nicknames, I've helped you out. Stud was his real nickname, till Senior, till the son came along.
Moved back in 52 to Peterborough, and I've been, like Jim, in and out with the Pro League, but Peterborough's been my home base, other than I spent 17 years in Sudbury, Ontario as a liquor salesman.
Well, my story starts in 1959, and it started with my Uncle Ben that took me up to the arena because I stayed at my grandmother's, and a group of them the young juniors used to go up, and he dragged me along, and next thing you know, that's how I found out there was lacrosse.
PMLA were doing a promotion, free chocolate milk. Of course, in those days we grew up outside, so it didn't take long for the word to get out. So we raced, kids are biking and running to the arena, and you saw stacks of little bottles of chocolate milk, and they said, "Oh no, wait a minute, you got to go on the floor first." And they hand you a stick, and we went through catching and throwing and whatever, and then after it was over, we got the free chocolate milk. Yes.
My father and mother, well, my mother's brother, Benny Floyd, had played, and that was the only connection to lacrosse in our family, and I really don't even know how he got involved in it, other than being a South Ender in around Brio Avenue, which is in a couple of kilometers within the arena. So I don't know his background to getting started. My father never played. He was from Lakefield. Mother, obviously, girls didn't play a lot of sports in those days. So it was basically just through my Uncle Ben.
My brother Raj played all the way up through minor and junior and senior, and he was on the 61 Minto Cup team in Hastings. My son, John Grant Jr., has played since he was 5 years old, and my daughters, Jamie Lynn and Jillian, played girls field lacrosse, actually. And we're in the Ontario Summer Games in London, and then I got transferred to Sudbury, and it was unfortunate. They ended up moving up with me in Louise, but there was no lacrosse at that time.
I got started in '59, and then my brother Bob came down a couple of years later because he was 2.5 years behind me, and we all ended up doing the lacrosse school for as long as we could, which was up to the Bantam age, which is about 12 years of age. After Pee Wee, you couldn't belong to the school anymore. You just had to play rep lacrosse. You didn't play at all. So basically that was it, but we went from the Bantam, the midget, the rep lacrosse, into the junior, junior B, to junior A, to the senior, to the pro, to the national team. John's got the one son that did it, but I had a daughter that did it. My oldest daughter, Christy, ended up playing the girls' field, get into it pretty early, played the 1999 World Championships, ended up going to Cornell, played D1 NCAA, got to the semifinal of that, which is Cornell's best record ever for female lacrosse, their 2002 year. And then after that, really not much of an avenue for girls to keep going, and she ended up going, well, with her education, ended up becoming a doctor at Sunnybrook. All my nephews and nieces really got involved in lacrosse, Bob's sons and daughters, and my sister's sons and daughters. Josh played with the Lakers for a while. Tori had played a little NCAA and is coaching the Trent team now. We were all factory workers, surprisingly enough, and it's a funny story that you mention it, because we were all in the GE, basically. We got out of high school, and it was when I finally went to Philly to play some pro lacrosse, and I was talking to a couple of our teammates. Glenn Ferguson was going to Trent. He said, maybe you should go back to school. Maybe, we got a hockey team, so it was always to, try to stay involved with the sports. So I got involved going to Trent University to do the ice hockey for them. And because we couldn't play, there wasn't NCAA, it wasn't even the University Lacrosse at the time in Canada. So we did CIAU sports, which was the ice hockey, and ended up going to Trent after being in the factory for a while, but we had to quit the factory jobs to play our pro lacrosse down in Philadelphia. So once we did that, the avenue led to going to teaching, and I got into that for 30 years.
30 years with Corby Distillers, yes. In Peterborough it started, and before that I worked 14 years at Coca-Cola. So I figured, well, Wiser's and Coke, so I switched to being a liquor salesman and still mixing the same.
Well, basically, it's, you know, the birth of your, you know, sons and daughters. Those are always wonderful and great. And then the fact that I coached high school, we sent quite a few of our players, you know, through our program into the NCAA a bit. And, you know, we had some All-Ontario championships with those teams as well. And so we had a pretty good program out at Lakefield, which was sort of sport was a mainstay of the school for quite a while. And coaching the Lakers a little bit, as I said, in the lean years. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier or not, but we did them in '94, '95 when a lot of the good players were going to ice hockey, and we weren't getting a lot of our good juniors up. So we really fought hard to keep that program alive. But basically that, and you know, you're just your high school teaching career.
If I have achievements other than playing, and of course, been fortunate enough to be living in this community and being surrounded by lacrosse culture, is when Junior was 5, he started playing, and at that time PMLA only had 67 kids, no house league, and they played a zone series, and we were getting beat by Whitby's and the Hamiltons, and there's 22-0, and they put a little ad in the paper for kids to come out at each age group, and we get 11 kids, and 9 really didn't ever play before. So we're going against these associations, and so we met, and a fellow like Dave Thomas, and it just happened in that era that the Wassons and the Evanses and the Johnsons and Tetros and come along, Vitarellis with their kids, and we created a new executive, and we started House League. And it's great. The first registration was 200 kids, and then next year another 200. So in the 3 years, we're up to nearly 500 kids.
Wow.
So, and it's great being part of a building process, because now you can see, as Jimmy said, that 61 team now is on a Minto Cup team, and it's the same now with Junior playing, which he never won a Minto, but he was fortunate to win some Mann Cups, and the rest is history. To me, being the process of the part of Peterborough Minor Lacrosse and building, and then getting transferred to Sudbury and starting with a group of hockey guys and a fellow named Russ Furnell, got lacrosse going. And again, our first registration was 500 kids.
Wow.
So 500 new sticks and equipment and everything that went with it. And we played house league. We had to figure out a way, because down south the rules are different. We had to set rules of stick checking, and because Joe Bowen, I credit Joe Bowen, he was on TV then and was doing the NLL games, and fabulous. So, but we painted a 3-foot line inside our box, so if anybody ran into the boards, you couldn't hit. There's no contact within that. So it just gives the kids a chance to grow. But see, it's still going now, and we have a girl that we had a fellow up there, Pee Wee kid that made Team Ontario, and we have a girl up there that now has made Team Ontario on the girls' side. So from a little house league, they're doing well.
Following the playing days, I did the Lakers for a couple of years. In their lean years, we really struggled, you know, with, well, there's no air conditioning in the arena, and a lot of our good players had gone to ice hockey or didn't want to play in Peterborough anymore. So we fought hard to keep it going in the 94, 95 years. I coached a bit at the time, so did John. And then I really got involved. Along with Freddie Blows, I was we were the inaugural coaches for the World Lacrosse. We got that all going here in 98 Girls Field. Yeah, started the program. Freddie spearheaded, but I was with him at the time. We coached together. We had a couple of Ontario game championships. We won the Ontario championship. And I stayed in it for about the first 8 years, and then Freddie stayed in it ever since. Well, I think you got to take it all the way back to 1961. We're so fortunate we won basically from the first time we ever tried to start playing. Donnie had coached us. It was the 61. You want to go in more detail, but the 61 All-Ontario novice team became Peterborough's first Minto Cup team 10 years later. So the 61 team, the 72 Minto Cup team, our first Mann Cup in 73, and then we had many of those for a good 10 or 15 year span. World Championship that you're part of, we're all part of, still etched in our minds, and a lot of high school championships, this, that, and the other.
Midget All-Ontario.
Yeah, Midget All-Ontario,
67.
67 too, yeah, good point.
We had the time of our lives. When you look at it, our whole life was outside. And we usually got one pair of running shoes and one pair of rubber boots. And we met at the park or we met at the bowl, and my best friend growing up was my stick. It went everywhere I went. So, and then as you build, and like I said, everything was competition. You try to tell parents that now. Jimmy and I have been rivals for anything, whether it's alleys or cards or playing backyard lacrosse. It's still competitive.
He could never win.
Yeah. But I don't think the kids and parents are missing that nowadays, and how lacrosse organizations can create balance and play against peers, because they go to school. Hey, I play you Tuesday night. Our team's going to beat it. Oh, you aren't. So you've already set the rivalries up, especially in a small town.
I think the biggest thing for us is we really learned to manicure the stick. And John, maybe you taught me. I don't know. I could string them. And I could do it a stick from catgut right through to, and it was always leather and lace. So, we took them apart and I figured how to do it. So I did a lot of the stringing of the sticks. But John learned to whittle them down with an old broken, snap the Coke bottle in a plastic bag, bring it out, and that would be your planer. And he would shave down handles to. And the funny thing is, it's a funny story, but the stick he didn't want because it rolled right,
Yep.
he'd give away would become my favorite stick. So I would always take his stick that didn't roll the right way for him. Yep. Now you can lean it, make it a little bit more right, but we actually had the same stick, but I would never like his stick because it rolled too much left, but we almost had the identical stick, and for the most part, I became the stringer of doing a good majority of the sticks, only for the ones I wanted to do it for, but on the teams, you'd end up fixing them up a little bit that way. And the uniqueness of the lacrosse school that we happened to go through in Peterborough, which was nowhere in Ontario the way it was run. And basically, you just come up. Donnie ran it for the whole thing. So he would run all the programs, novice, pee-wee. He only had the two, and there maybe be 100 kids at it. But, you set it up like a house league. You kept standings. You kept the scoring stats. The novice all-stars would go up play in the pee-wee. So there's a lot of real unique, and you have brothers. You think, you mentioned that when I first met you, you thought John and I hated each other. Well, we still do. But, we had that competitiveness. It was like brothers scrapping in the driveway or at the kitchen table for the last, scrap of meat. We played morning, noon, and night from 7 o'clock in the morning till late at night. Till the sun went down. If the lacrosse school was over, we went and found somebody's back. We just played and played and played. So that was the real uniqueness of what we ate, slept, and breathed the lacrosse.
I guess when I finally realized, when you're in a city like Peterborough with everything, we were always an A center. So you always look straight ahead. You never look down to see who's down in the C level or the D level, or now it's F level, and until I got to Sudbury and realized we're at the D level and C level, but we want to get to the A level. And house league is the bread and butter of what you can do and how kids, you got to give me time to love the game. You can give him a stick and you start the game and then he gets knocked down. How many kids nowadays are going to get up and want to continue to play? So you got to figure out, they need time management to understand the stick, to understand the game, and create an atmosphere. Tracy Koleski wrote a story of it when he came from Bancroft. Didn't know lacrosse in Bancroft, and his friends, Junior and different guys, would grab a stick and fix a stick and walk him through it, and look where the career Tracy had. And it was from a house league base. And in house league, you're not afraid to try. You know, again, we're fortunate in Peterborough to watch some of the best lacrosse players in the world. You know, here we are at Civic Arena looking through the screen, and Johnny Davises and the Bobby Allens, and just the list is endless. But we got a chance to see that and sit with them and watch them shave sticks, and so it was an amazing ride for us. We're very fortunate in Peterborough.
Internationally, I think it's going to be great. I think field lacrosse wise, you got 62 nations playing. The odds are it's going to get in the 2028 Olympics. They're going to hybrid the rules a little bit, so girls and the men and ladies are going to play almost the same type of game. Professionally, they're trying to make the inroads. I always say they got to get back to 1974, 75 with what we have, you know, where they got to get, you know, a 35, 40 game schedule, 4 to 7 series, play like the Mann Cup, et cetera, et cetera. It looks like it's on its way. It's still got a long way to go, in my opinion, that way. But they're getting the crowd. So professionally, I think the outdoor game, you know, Americans aren't probably going to like me, but, you know, I'm probably a little skeptical as to, you know, how the field game can go as a spectator sport in the summertime. The thing I have about the pro game is we played in the summertime when there was air conditioning, and they played so many years in the winter. A lot of people believe they're playing in the winter because, well, to beat the weather, but it was not to beat the weather, it was to get the American player to play the game. And they're still not playing the game, even though they've gone to the winter season. So I'm on a bit of a soapbox with all of this right now, but it's got potential. The Pro League's got some potential. It's trying to get back to what I believe has to be done from 74, 75. They'll get there someday, and then enough money that players will get money and not have to work at other kinds of jobs, which we all did.